Okay. All right, we're on our second. This is tape 2, and we're continuing. We're talking about. We're up to 1938, Kristallnacht.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the non-Jew, the people who were rioting or whatever you would call it, they knew not to touch that business because it had already been sold to the non-Jew.
Right.
Now, what was your father doing in the meantime? What did he do all day?
Nothing. Trying to
figure out how to
get out.
How to get out.
Okay. By that time, we already had an affidavit, and
an affidavit for
to come to the United States.
For the whole family.
There was the whole family was my parents and myself.
Right. Now, your brother had already left.
He had left. Yes.
He left in 1938 also.
And my sister left, I think, in 1936.
Okay. Your brother was after Kristallnacht he left, or before?
What?
Your brother left after Kristallnacht, or before?
No, before.
Before. Okay.
Before the march into Austria, we saw that coming, and for a young person, you didn't know what they would do. It was very important, like, to get them out.
Right. How old was your brother at this time?
In 38, he was 24.
24, okay. So, now at this point, they were already taking people to camps? I don't know my history well enough.
Sure.
When did they start that?
I don't know when they started.
But by 1938,
I think they started, Dachau was well established at that. Maybe not the Polish camps.
Uh-huh.
That only started after the war, when they went into Poland.
Right.
But the ones in Germany, like we lived in Bavaria, Dachau, where Opa was sent from Vienna. Vienna is in the south.
Right.
Bavaria is southern part of Germany.
Okay.
So the people who were arrested in our town, they were also sent to Dachau. Okay, my father was fortunate; he wasn't sent. He was taken to prison. Some people were sent on to Dachau, but he and maybe a few others came home from prison after I don't know what time.
This was earlier. This was already in 36 or 37?
38.
38. They were taking people to prison.
Kristallnacht, he was taken to prison.
Kristallnacht is when they arrested the people.
Yeah.
And how did your father get out of prison and not be sent to Dachau?
I think at that time my mother and I had gone to Hamburg. I'm not sure. No, that was maybe before or after. We went to Hamburg and we got permits to move to Trinidad. We had no idea where Trinidad was,
right.
But it wasn't important.
Right.
And I think this is how my father got out of prison, because when Kristallnacht was, I, who was 16 or 15, 16, went to Stuttgart, where the American consulate was, to see if we could speed our departure, but we had very high numbers.
Departure to Trinidad?
To the United States.
United States, okay.
There were so many people in front of that consulate. I knew where to go. My father had a very good friend in Stuttgart. I stayed with them overnight.
This was literally the night of Kristallnacht?
That was Friday. That was after Kristallnacht. I think Kristallnacht was a Wednesday or a Thursday. Next morning I was sent to Stuttgart as a representative to get this speeded up. Shabbos morning I walked to the consulate. There were so many people, I never got anywhere near the consulate.
Yeah.
So Shabbos night, after Shabbos, I took the train back home. And where I had to change trains, we were on a side spur or something like that. My uncle was there looking for me and said, "You can't go home. They said they'll arrest you and put you into Dachau." A girl.
Right.
So I went to Bad Kissingen and I was staying in a hotel there. We knew the people. My brother was apprenticed previously in Bad Kissingen and he lived there. So I worked with these people.
Right.
And I was there from November probably till February. And then my mother got permission I could come home, because in March we left.
Now, in the meantime, your parents were still in
We're in
Königshofen,
Yeah.
and your father had just been in jail briefly.
Yes, few weeks probably. I
weeks.
don't know how long.
Uh-huh.
Don't remember.
And then they let him out. No, yeah, we started to say they let him out because he had these visas to Trinidad, or
Maybe, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, they let him
But they
out.
let him out.
Yeah.
okay. And then you were still in this hotel
Yeah, I was in Bad Kissingen.
for a number of months.
Yeah, from November till I think February.
Till February.
So I came home.
And then you came home, and then what
We
happened
held
then?
back. My cousin, who I mentioned before, who went to England, rather Scotland, not England.
This is
had
Aunt
gotten
Friedel?
Aunt Friedel,
Okay.
to whom I owe my life. She went to the Foreign Office
Mm-hmm.
and got permits for my parents and myself. And Belle and Uncle Lothar borrowed money from everybody here in the United States. They didn't have much. And they sent that to Aunt Friedel as a guarantee. You had to have money.
Uh-huh.
She was a doctor, but she didn't have money.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Because she was just trying to get re-established again.
Mm-hmm.
Or he was trying to get re-established again. So with all that money, she could put up a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go there.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we went.
And this was an arrangement she made with the government of
England. She went down, she knew somebody who recommended her or introduced her to somebody at the Foreign Office, because we said it's a hurry, it's got to be done right away.
Right. And then she sent the papers over to you in Königshofen?
Yeah, I don't know, I probably, yes.
Uh-huh. And then you were able to go?
In March we left, yes.
You left by boat?
Well, we went from Königshofen to Frankfurt, from Frankfurt to Hoek van Holland, and there you took a channel boat to London, and we stayed overnight with distant relatives, kind of, for just one night. We were there for Shabbos, and Shabbos night we took a train to Glasgow.
That was probably a big relief once you were in
Well,
London.
once we were out of Germany, it was a big relief.
Right, right. So it was now you and your parents, and
Yes.
and so your whole immediate family was now safe.
Yes,
As
we
far
were
as you can
out.
tell, it was
But
you and
in
your parents,
Frankfurt, I left an aunt,
Mm-hmm.
an Aunt Nella, a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
They were there. They got out much. My Nella got out much later.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt never got out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then all your other cousins and uncles who had been living all over Germany.
Well, some of them had died.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The oldest sister had died, and her husband was Aunt Friedel's father. He was in Glasgow already, I think, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we came.
Good stuff.
I think I told you.
All right, is that we're up
On
to? So
Shabbos
you
night.
right,
Yeah.
all right. So Shabbos night you took the train to Glasgow. Wait, let's just start so that we can
Yeah.
make sure we don't miss
Okay.
anything. So you were in London then overnight.
Yes,
London, is
we
that
were
right?
in London for Shabbos.
For Shabbos, and then Saturday night
We took a train.
to Glasgow, and there you
Yes.
met Aunt Friedel.
Right.
Okay. Had you met her before? Did you know her?
Sure, she used to spend a lot of time all the cousins spend a lot of time in Königshofen, because that was like everybody's second home.
Okay. Just make sure. Okay, so then you stayed with Aunt Friedel. Is that what happened?
Yes. I was kind of the maid, but we did have somebody for heavy cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise I was the maid, and my parents took an apartment and used Uncle Jacob, that's her father's furniture that was in Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
They rented an apartment, and they had 3 or 4 young men staying there for room and board. And that's how they made their living, kind of.
by putting up these young people.
They paid for that they paid for the food and the having 3 or 4 and cooking and being careful shopper, which my father was. I took care of them. They didn't make money, but they kind of lived along with it.
Right. And how
like a boarding house.
Right.
Small boarding house, because we were not permitted to work.
You were not permitted to work under your visas.
Guarantee. So you were not permitted to work.
And you were living in that house also, or you were living with Aunt
No, I was
Friedel?
living at Aunt Friedel's.
Cleaning up, I think as the maid.
Being the maid.
Being the maid. And you got paid for that, or that was what you paid, that was what your room...
Maybe I got a few pensions, I don't know, very little if anything.
Was that a big house?
It was an apartment. They had a large, very large living room, very large kitchen, and they had a waiting room, a surgery, an office.
Oh, they had their
office.
They offices there.
In the house. They had outside also.
They were both doctors, you said?
Yes, yes. And then they had 2 bedrooms. One they used and one my uncle used. He had his own room. And I slept in the waiting room. There was a couch in there.
You say your uncle had his own, Aunt Friedel and her husband
Father.
each?
Yeah.
They each had their own rooms?
No. She and her husband had 1 bedroom.
Okay.
And her father had the second bedroom.
Okay. Oh, she was your cousin, right? And her father was your uncle. Gotcha. Okay. And what kind of doctors were there?
She was a pediatrician, but she did general also, especially later. And he also internist.
Okay. I'm just going to stop it for a second. Okay, I think that's a better angle. Okay, so now...
Now what is this stuff? Does this come on?
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. Now you were... Okay, so you were living with Aunt Friedel and your parents were living nearby in the same community.
Right.
What was the Jewish... what was the Jewish community like there?
It was a beautiful community at that time. And a lot of people took in children, and there were quite a few refugees in Glasgow.
From Germany specifically, or all over Europe?
Well, Germany and probably Austria, I don't know. Germany.
And these refugees were living in people's homes, in their apartments?
Yes.
And how long
And I guess some of them some people got working permits where they could make 30 shilling, I think, a week, which wasn't much, but that's what the kind of people my parents had living there.
And how long were you there in Glasgow?
Just 1 year.
And then what happened?
We had been told they would take, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years, before our number would come up for the American quota. But at that time, after 1 year, we could go with that number. Apparently at that time there had been so many that didn't show up because they had been deported and killed and whatever, or gone somewhere else, probably killed and deported.
So then you were able to go from there straight to America?
Yes, to America.
And you went by boat?
Yes.
And how long was that boat ride?
About, how long was it? About a week?
Yeah, 5, 6 days.
5, 6 days.
5, 6 days. And that was like a comfortable boat, or was lots of people squished on?
Yes. We were in a convoy. I was on a British boat on the Lancastria.
These were passenger boats?
Yeah, it was sank a little bit later.
Sank by the Germans as part of the war. But these weren't military boats at all. They were passenger
but we were in a military convoy.
Oh, it was in a military convoy protecting?
There were a lot of soldiers on the boat also, not only civilians.
I see. Being shipped back from the front back home or whatever?
Maybe. Okay, we went from Liverpool to Nova Scotia. What's the port city in Nova Scotia?
Halifax.
Halifax.
Okay.
Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
And from Halifax to New York.
Halifax by boat to New York.
Yeah, everything by boat.
And where did you arrive in New York?
New York Harbor.
Not Ellis Island. That was already closed.
No, we did not. We didn't go through Ellis Island, did we? No.
Mm-hmm. Just the
because one of our common things, we arrived on the same day.
Right.
On different ships.
On different. You didn't meet each other at the pier.
No.
But you found out later that it was the same day.
Right.
Right. And then what did you do once you got to New York?
Well, and
did you know anyone?
They had rented an apartment in Washington Heights.
Okay.
You want to go and visit it, you can go on Broadway, where the post office is now, 4530 Broadway.
Okay. They were in that building in an apartment.
They had rented an apartment, and we moved in there. Mm-hmm. Uncle Lothar had a job, which was very fortunate, and Aunt Belle had a job, which was also fortunate, and I got a job as a nanny, kind of, but I wasn't a nanny really. I was more of a maid. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This was a job in New York?
In New York, yes.
Where was this job?
The people had a place in Rockaway. They had a bungalow, and that's where I was.
Rockaway, as in like near Kennedy Airport,
here,
kind
right,
of.
right.
Right. And you had a bungalow out apart from the house, like a separate quarter?
No. They had a bungalow. I don't know. It was probably a 2-bedroom or bungalow. That's how a lot of people lived in the summer. There was a summer home. They had a place probably in the city.
And you stayed there all week long?
I stayed all week long, and I was off, I think, one day or a half a day or so I would come to the city. Mm-hmm. Somebody at that time got me a rail ticket, because it was too much to spend my own money. Maybe I paid something for it, to reimburse the other person. And I was there for a while. And
you would come back to Washington Heights?
Yeah, I went to visit my family.
And you would just stay over there one night a week and then go back
Something
to work?
like that, yeah. I don't even know if I stayed overnight or not.
Right. Now, what were your Uncle Lothar and Aunt Belle, what were their jobs?
What was Uncle Lothar doing? I think he was working in a carpet place. Mm-hmm. And Aunt Belle was working in a neckwear place. Mm-hmm.
And they were living in Washington Heights still in that same apartment?
They had moved into that apartment just before we came.
Right. So was that disappointing for you that your whole family was living there and you were sort of stuck in Rockaway?
No, I was very happy to be here. Yeah. It didn't matter where.
Right. The people you worked for in Rockaway were Jewish?
Yes, they were Jewish.
They were observant?
And no, they were not German. And there was a grandfather there, and he couldn't understand that a Yiddish Mädel kann nicht reden Yiddish.
Mm-hmm. Because you only knew German.
Yeah, I didn't know. I knew English and I knew German.
How did you know English?
I spent a year in Glasgow.
So you picked it up there. Mm-hmm. And were they observant? They were from?
Yes, they were observant. Not today's kind of extreme right wing.
Right.
But at that time you had to kosher the meat yourself.
Right.
It wasn't done in the butcher shop. So he didn't think that I couldn't speak Yiddish. I wouldn't know how to kosher meat.
So he koshered the meat.
I don't know whether he did or she did or whatever.
But not you.
Yeah.
Did they have children? It was the whole family?
Yes, I was kind of a nanny. I don't remember the husband. I don't know if there was one. But there was the father, I remember, because of his thing, a Yiddish Mädel kann nicht reden Yiddish.
Where was he from? You don't know?
There were Jews that were living here, God knows how long.
Right. Oh, they were American, American.
Yes,
even the grandfather, the
Other
father.
people couldn't afford maids.
Right. Right. What was their business?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
And then how long did you work for them?
Not too long, and then I went back to the city, and I got some kind of a job, and then I got a job where my sister worked, in that neckwear place. And there I was quite a few years.
Now, how old were you at this time when I guess...
Well, by that time, maybe it was already 1939, 1940. In 40, I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
17, 18.
Okay, and when you worked with your sister in the network place, you were living back in that apartment in the Heights?
With my parents,
with the whole
yes.
family? Mm-hmm. And how long was that? That was a few years that you worked?
That was until my parents bought a farm in Elmer, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. And they bought the farm and they moved over to Elmer.
They moved to Elmer.
But did you stayed in the Heights?
We kept the apartment for a short time. But then my sister went to North Carolina, where her husband was in the army. And I moved out and got a furnished room and board, somebody in Washington Heights. And my brother, I think, also moved out and got probably a furnished room. I really don't remember.
Uh-huh. And you'd pay rent for the furnished room and board and everything?
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then what was the next thing that happened? I guess you met Opa soon thereafter, right?
Yeah. Well, that was 1940. Yeah, I met Opa in 1945 or 1944 maybe.
So it was a few years that you were living in Washington Heights, and what shul did your family daven at when you were in Washington Heights?
On Nagel Avenue, what was his name?
Who?
On Nagel Avenue, what was the rabbi's name? Where we went? It was a small shul.
Yeah.
I can't think of the rabbi's name.
Okay, on Nagel Avenue.
No.
And then you just lived in Washington Heights with all the other people in Washington Heights,
right,
and worked and
worked and tried to make a living, and whenever you had.
And you would visit your parents in Elmer every once in a while, or not really?
Yes, every once in a while, not too often.
How would you get to Elmer?
You took the train from Pennsylvania Station to Camden, New Jersey, and there you could get a bus. It would take you close
Not direct to Elmer.
Takes you close to Elmer,
Close to
about
Elmer.
4 miles away.
And then someone would pick you up, or you'd walk.
Either walk,
Right.
and then take
It was maybe only 3 miles. I don't think I ever walked that.
Did your parents have a car in Elmer?
Not at that time. They did have a car then, but then after Uncle Carl got out of the army in 1945 or whatever, he used the car because he knew how to drive.
He learned in the army?
No, he learned in Germany.
Oh, he already knew from before.
And he used to have a car in New York before he went into the army for business. Uncle Carl.
Did Uncle Carl serve back in Europe when he was in the army, or he stayed in the United States?
He was only in the States.
Only in the States.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you eventually met Opa.
Yes.
In Washington Heights, and then you
Yeah.
lived happily ever after from there.
Right.
Because you after you met Opa, you were living with Opa in Washington Heights still, or then you immediately
Yes,
moved
we
to
lived in Inwood on Elwood Street. You know where Elwood Street is?
No, I don't know.
Past the post office, there's
Okay.
Nagel Avenue and the side street between Nagel and Broadway. The first or second street after that, 191st Street. We lived right across the street from where that long walk is into the subway, 8th Avenue train, the A train.
Right. And then eventually you moved to Elmer. And
Yes. Well, no, from Elwood Street we moved to Elmer.
to Elmer. And then I guess the rest of the story we have on Opa's video, right? Where the two of you were together.
That's joint.
That's joint. We'll have to figure out how to put that on.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Is there anything else we should talk about?
I don't know.
That might be it. I guess once you were in Washington Heights, then the war was going on. So you would listen to the radio and follow events from there.
Yes, sure.
And did you have any communication with people back in Europe? Or there wasn't?
Well, for a while, my parents did have it, and like Aunt Nella arrived with Herbert, their oldest son, when was Belle married? Maybe in 1940, after the war started. After the war started, she came out.
Mm-hmm. And that was the only person they were really corresponding with from here.
No, they may have corresponded with others, but I really didn't.
You didn't, right?
So
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. I think that's it then, right?
Okay.
Unless,
Good.
unless you have anything to add.
All right. If you have anything to add, we can do
We
that
could do it later.
anytime.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah. Okay. This is the subject. Moses Fruchter. Michael Moshe Fruchter, who's how old are you? 29 years old, Caucasian male. There is a grotesque blemish on the subject's forehead. We're zooming in and we're waiting for it to focus. The blemish is so grotesque that the camera cannot focus. It has never recognized something as hideous and gruesome as this. Where is
Did you find it?
Wait, it's not focused. How do I autofocus it? How do I manual focus it? Okay. We're back now. Our subject.
A month later,
1 month later. Is it a month later?
at least.
Okay. We're gonna zoom in on the affected area. Wait till it comes in focus. Having trouble focusing. Okay, wait, we're all the way back. Now we're gonna actually zoom in. And then zoom in again. Alright, I think we got